Welcome back to another video. My name is Henrik and today we're going to be doing our typical range test. We have it standing here, which is the Smart #3 Brabus, meaning in the top of the line with 428 horsepower, 543 Newton meters. We also get the biggest battery variant, which is going to be a net 62 kilowatts an hour battery, which is supposed to get us around 415 kilometers of range. We'll see what we can get. We're going to be doing our 80 kilometers an hour behind the truck test, 120, 140 and also top speed. Wheels, we're looking at summer tires with the Eco Contact 6Q, which are going to be 245s, 40 in the front as well as in the rear with 20-inch rims. Let's see what we can get and let's get right into that first drive. And now join me behind the truck at around 83 kilometers an hour here. We're going uphill a little bit right now. We've reset our tripometer, 80 kilometers to 100 behind the truck now. What we're looking at here is, quickly let's also go into the eco mode. You can change it with the buttons right here. You have a couple of quick bands down there, and in general a very big display where you basically do everything through, which I'm not the biggest fan of. It's more of something towards the Asian market because, like I said, everything is through here, and if you go through the modes, the planet is going to rotate, stuff like that. A little bit of a gimmicky, but everything you want to achieve, you go through here. You have a sub-menu. You have a lot of sub-menus in general. Otherwise, very nice steering wheel with the Brabus, with this Alcantara on the outside, all physical buttons. A little bit of a digital cockpit right in there, and also a heads-up display, and otherwise a fairly Mercedes-looking inside with all these climate outputs here on the side and in the center here. We have inductive loading in the center here, which for me does not work. For his iPhone it does work, iPhone 11, and then two cup holders as well as a cooled little space in the center here where you can turn off the cooling on and keep it turned off. Turn it on or turn it off. Otherwise, sitting here at around 80 kilometers an hour behind the truck now, we have adaptive cruise control set up. You can set everything up via the left button here. You do have to sometimes hold the steering wheel and we'll track the truck in front of us. Otherwise, Beats sound system in here as well. In general, sound isolation here at 80 kilometers an hour, there's really nothing to talk about. Fairly quiet. You will obviously hear when people drive past. It's not a windy day and therefore also fairly quiet right now. One thing that is also quite nice is the seating position here. Feels quite good. I do like the seats. The suspension is going to be a little bit more on the firmer side. You can see there also the Brabus on the top. Looks pretty cool. A little bit more on the firmer side, a little bit more sportier feeling, but that's about it. Let's see what consumption we get here at 80 kilometers an hour, and I'll get back to you at 140. We've just done our loading test or charging test. We're going to look at what we've actually gotten. So we charged from around 17% up to now 81%. Charging time was a total of 29 minutes, and it says until 100% around 34 minutes now. We were charging with around 440 volts, and also you can see we loaded a total of 44 kilowatts an hour. If you look at the loading curve, we can see it started off fairly strong and then slightly went down, and then there's this big spike all the way down. But that was, I don't know why that happened. Don't take that in consideration. That was maybe something to do with the loading infrastructure here. You can see from 17 up to 80 around half an hour or 29 minutes. So if you're probably charging this at total from 10 to 80%, maybe around 32, 33 minutes, and we actually got a peak which was more than what we can at 157.3. And join me back now at 140. I did just try to set the cruise control to 140, but it only goes up to 130, so I'm kind of stuck here trying to guess what speed I am going and trying to adjust it every time, so I'm at 140. We set our tripometer. You can definitely tell now 140. Also wind noise have increased, road noise have increased. Also depends a little bit on the road that we're currently on, because it is a little bit more of a rougher one, not a smooth one. Otherwise, 140, still fairly comfortable to drive. I'm also going to switch off of Brabus, go into the comfort, because we already did our top speed test. That's where we were driving our Brabus. We did also just charge the car, so you would have just seen that as well. Otherwise, I have also turned on the heads-up display, which shows me my relevant information, like my speed and what speed I am supposed to be able to go. And also, theoretically, if I have my cruise control set, it would also show me that. Kind of unfortunate that I can't, at 140, get my smart pilot on here, so I'm stuck kind of at 130 now, up to 130. So like I said, a little bit of guessing here. And one thing that is not the nicest about this car is the brake control, because it is a very direct brake. So if you put like 5% on here, it is more like 20% on a normal car, and therefore, especially when you're driving slower, you will notice that. But even if I'm going off the gas here and braking, for instance, sometimes you will notice that it's fairly direct. But you can change that in the car settings a little bit. I have already put it down to low. If you put it on medium, it's almost like a one pedal driving. If you put it on high, that is going to be a one-pedal driving. Otherwise, power steering, you can put that also on heavy if you like that a little bit more here at higher speeds. And other things you can also obviously implement in there. One thing, like I already said, I don't like that everything is adjustable through here. Well, it's nice that it's adjustable through there, but not just everything. There's so many sub-menus that I'm not a big fan of, and therefore it's just a little bit... Well, you're going to get distracted by it the whole time, and that's the whole point of... You got a car where there's not much you have to press on, but then you have the whole infotainment display, which is going to distract you so much that it's just not the best combination in my opinion. But otherwise, it's a very comfortable position in here. It's nice to drive at 140 even, and the range is also not too bad at those speeds. And now my colleague is driving here at top speed, currently 140, 150, 160, 170, 180. Well, we didn't push it all the way there to 180, but even acceleration here at 160 is still quite quick. And you definitely notice that on the Autobahn, even at these speeds, it is a little bit louder in here now. You do have to speak up. Wind noise is just minimal increase compared to 120, 140. But the road noise is going to increase a little bit, so you will have to speak up. Otherwise, still fairly comfortable to drive at these speeds. 180 for German standards is nothing too fast. People sometimes even cruise at 180, especially the pendlers who go from one city to another one, or the workers. In their Volkswagen Passat or the Hiti Passat, if you know those. But even at 180 here, it is still quite comfortable to drive. You will notice even at 170, it still has a good kick here. Let's see, we can accelerate here. From 130 up to 160 fairly quick. 3.7 seconds from 0 to 100, and with 428 horsepower, the car definitely has a kick. But now you'll notice this car is also driving around 180, and he has to brake. We have to. Well, we can't accelerate faster. That's the thing. Some people in Germany, they will make way for you because they notice, okay, from 130 up to 180, he is quite fast, but then you're stuck at the limit of 180 here, which then allows you to not completely pass everyone at those speeds because 180 is limited there, just like in a Volvo. But otherwise, still fairly comfortable to drive at these speeds, and there's really not much to complain about. Steering input is also nothing negative, all quite well and done. Let's get back to you with our top speed and all our results. So let's take a look at all the numbers that we got. So 100 kilometers hour behind the truck, we had an average consumption of 12.6 kilowatts an hour, which is a fairly decent consumption, especially for a car with so many horsepower. The average speed there was 87.69 kilometers per hour, and the total time took us 26 minutes. The price there, if you were to theoretically driving 100 kilometers with my current plan, which is 49 cents per kilowatts an hour with the ENBW medium plan, would be €6.17, and you would theoretically get a total range if you drive the car from 100 down to 0% of 492 kilometers. 120 kilometers an hour behind the truck, not behind the truck, but 120 kilometers an hour, we had a consumption of 19.8 with an average speed of 108.6, total time 21 minutes, and a theoretical range would be 313 kilometers with a total cost of €9.70. 140 kilometers an hour, we had an average consumption of 25.9 with a total top speed of 126.7, not top speed but an average speed, and a total time of 18 minutes with a total kilometers of 239. Keeping in consideration, if you were theoretically driving on your Autobahn, you'd only be using around 80% of those 239 kilometers, which again is not too much. Then the price you'd be looking at would be €12.69. Top speed then has a consumption of 34.2 kilowatts an hour with an average speed of 142.5, total time 16 minutes, and top speed total range would be 181 kilometers with a price of €16.76. What did you think of these numbers? Let me know in the comments, and if you like these kind of contents, make sure to subscribe and like for more of this, because it does take a very long time to actually produce these videos.